Nearly 100 years after opening, a historic theater on Rockford's south side will be partially demolished to make room for a different development. Bria Walters talks to Rockford residents about their hopes to fill the gap.
The theater represents a lot of different things to different generations.
Vic Rivera lives on Rockford's south side. He grew up eating at restaurants and hanging out in shops in front of the Capitol Theater.
Buildings like this are very valuable to our history.
The once luxurious theater is a shell of its former self, a sight that disappoints Rivera and prompts his call for more transparency from city leaders.
Was there ever conversations of saving it, of preserving it, I just don't recall any type of major movements.
Alderperson Mark Bonney compares the Capitol's demolition to that of the Elks Lodge. Too much silence and not enough vision.
There was no significant conversation on the council floor. You can look at this with the Capitol either way. Demolish the theater, or you can look at it as saving the rest of the building.
The Capitol opened in 1928, and the years haven't been kind. But even if the theater's repairs were possible, Rob Willamy with the city says it's not worth it.
The roof deck is almost completely on the ground, which leads to a pretty significant health and safety issue.
At the very least, Rivera wants someone to save memorabilia from the theater.
I hope it really is preserved. The front, there's actually some mosaics.
Bonney just hopes no other historic buildings get into the state.
We have lost a lot of architecturally significant buildings in Rockford. We have also saved a lot of buildings.
In Rockford, Bria Walters, WIFR News.
After an asbestos abatement, 4 storefronts and 5 apartments will be ready for investors in the new year, according to Wilhelmy. Everything will be in partnership with R1 Planning Council.